Good morning. This is the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for this Monday, November 6th. Looking at precipitation observed over the past 7 days, quite dry across the southern half to two-thirds of the area. Some precipitation in the half-inch amounts to 1 inch across the Wasatch. It gets progressively heavier as you head further north into the mountains of Wyoming and central Idaho. And you can see percent of normal, although it's a little bit above normal up in the mountains of central Idaho and Wyoming, below normal precipitation, somewhere in the range of 0 to maybe 30% across the southern half to southern two-thirds of our area. So it's quite a dry and rather warm week. Although recently, in the last 2-3 days, we did have some snowfall to speak of. Again, the mountains of central Idaho got hit hardest with over a foot of snow, as well as western Wyoming, and even parts of the Wasatch, these yellow areas, as well as up in the northern mountains of Nevada, anywhere from about 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. And then the snow cover map reflects that with the lighter amounts in northern Utah and northern Nevada, heavier amounts as you head further into Idaho and Wyoming, where they're already developing a very steady, heavy snowpack. So here's a look at our satellite imagery with upper level maps superimposed. We'll put the map into motion, and you can see that clouds are now pushing in with a low pressure area pushing inland from the Pacific Northwest into the northern Rockies. More clouds, precipitation across the mountains of Idaho and into western Wyoming. Some more moisture moving to our far southern areas. The tightness of these height lines indicates very strong westerly winds aloft, so pretty good ventilation, especially in the mid to upper elevations. So taking a look at the upper level map, on the left for today, a pretty fast flow of westerlies through here, providing good overall ventilation and dispersion across our area. High pressure starting to build in across California. That's going to build eastwards to give us decreasing dispersion over the next few days. Moisture, which provided showers over the weekend, also exiting to our east. So on the right-hand side, you can see the dispersion overall best across the eastern two-thirds of the Great Basin, starting to go downhill a bit under high pressure along the Sierra front. We can take a look at the transport winds and mixing heights. You can see the winds die down quite a bit across the western Great Basin. Still pretty decent post-frontal winds further to the east. And again, of course, mixing heights higher under that low pressure in eastern areas. You can tell by these numbers through here, 4, 5, 6,000 feet above ground level, decreasing further to the west. Now on Tuesday, high pressure builds closer to us, so we start seeing high pressure building across the western Great Basin. Still a weak trough of low pressure pushing through eastern Utah, keeping dispersion there pretty good, and across those eastern areas where you see the areas in white, maybe some yellow, areas in the red, overall poor dispersion. We see that also across the mountains of central Idaho and Wyoming, where they're dealing with high pressure building in over cold snow-covered ground. And looking at transport winds, again, fairly light across Nevada, across a good chunk of Idaho as well, and into Wyoming. Some light northerly winds, maybe 5 to 15 miles per hour as you head further up into Utah. Mixing heights overall are pretty good. Now for Wednesday, deep low pressure pushing in with precipitation across northern California and the Pacific Northwest. We start seeing increasing southwest winds across the Sierra front, but still that high pressure ridge shifts eastwards across the eastern Great Basin. So you see many more areas here in the red indicating poor dispersion, starting to clear out right along the Sierra front with those winds. You see those winds picking up along the Sierra front in the western Great Basin, also in the Snake River Plain up in Idaho. Light winds still across our eastern areas, but those will start picking up as the low pressure approaches. Mixing heights best across eastern areas and decreasing a bit across central Nevada, picking up again right along the Sierra front as the low pressure approaches. Now the Utah Clearing Index, which does a specific dispersion forecast for Utah, shows the best numbers, best dispersion in the reds and yellows, worse in the blues and purples. So it's kind of opposite, but we see the best days on Monday, and things progressively go downhill as you go to Tuesday and Wednesday as high pressure builds across the region. Precipitation for the next 3 days. This is basically Monday morning through Thursday morning. You can see light amounts pushing into parts of Idaho and into the far northern Wyoming, 1/4 of an inch. Southern area stay dry, although a bit of precipitation across the Arizona Strip. Now further down the road on Thursday, we see that trough low pressure move onshore across the Pacific Northwest. Precipitation shifts into Idaho and into Wyoming. Stay dry for now, but windy across the southern half of the Great Basin. See a ventilation index on the right-hand side. On Friday, we have pretty good wind flow in all areas. Clouds around. That might limit vertical mixing, but overall transport winds probably out of the west or west-northwest at 15 to 35 miles per hour. Again, more precipitation, rain, and mountain snow across Idaho and Wyoming. On Saturday, high pressure starts to build in a little bit, clearing things out. Another low pressure up to the north. And on Sunday, we see another storm pushing it well into California through here into maybe northwestern Nevada and into western Idaho. Winds picking up again. Precipitation for days 4 and 5. So this would be from Thursday morning through Saturday morning. Significant amounts across the mountains of Idaho, 1.29 inches. So that could be 13 inches of new snowfall up in the McCall area and some of the higher peaks. A bit, maybe 3/4 of an inch, maybe 4 to 6 inches of snow up in Wyoming, and valley rains and mountain snows across far northern Nevada. Otherwise, most other areas stay dry. The extended forecast, the 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from November 13th through the 19th, cooler than normal conditions across our northern areas, but much warmer and drier to the south. So the southern half of our area stay dry. Precipitation again across the northern half of our region. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.